Yes, well, it's emerged that Clapham chemical attacker and convicted sex offender Abdul Yazidi failed a Christianity test during his third-time lucky asylum appeal. The dangerous sex monster successfully convinced the immigration judge he was fit to walk our streets and terrorise women, despite lying about his religion, his past and being deemed such a sexual threat that he was subject to a special safeguarding contract in order for him to attend his local church. And to round off this complete mockery of our pathetic system, it was revealed today that Yazidi was given a Muslim burial in West London. Classic. A serial sex offender being able to dupe the system before viciously attacking a woman and her two daughters with chemicals on the streets of Britain raises serious concerns about the dangers potentially being posed to women by the illegal migrant crisis. And as I revealed last night, there is an unproven but apparent correlation between areas with a large influx of asylum seekers and an increase in sexual offences. We, of course, await the data from the Ministry of Justice to definitively prove that either way. So, do our open borders pose a threat to the women of Britain? Let me know your thoughts. gbviews at gbnews.com. Tweet me at gbnews. Make sure you take part in our poll. The results will follow shortly. But doing battle on this now are writer and broadcaster Emma Webb and political commentator Joanna Jarju. Both of you, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. Emma, I'll start with you. Does the illegal migrant crisis pose a threat to women?
Well, firstly, I think it poses a safety threat to all of us, but women in particular. The Yazidi's case is a perfect example of that. And I find it peculiar that this isn't something that bothers feminists more. We hear so much about things like rape culture and the patriarchy, but there doesn't seem to be any common sense when it comes to just flinging open the doors to who knows who, because we really don't know who is coming in. And like I say, that itself poses a safety risk. But we know that a lot of these are young men who are coming from what feminists should be calling highly patriarchal cultures, who don't necessarily have much respect for women by Western standards. So, of course, this is going to pose a threat to women. And the challenge that I would put to anybody who doubts this, ask any woman you know. And if you are a woman, surely, particularly if you're living in one of the big cities like London, I know that I feel less safe than I used to when I'm in London, particularly at night. We're seeing rising crime levels. I'm not necessarily saying that is directly correlated to mass migration, but the point is that this is a kind of entropy, a kind of chaos that we are imposing on ourselves, because if you don't know who is coming into your country, then you simply cannot have security, and that affects all of us, and it affects women.
Yeah, Joanna, I mean, when you look at the small boat crossings, for example, roughly speaking, about 85% of them are men. They're coming from countries like Iran, Sudan. There's a whole host of other countries in that region, of course, as well. Egypt, for example, as well. Do you not think that maybe does pose a disproportionate risk to women, given the way that a lot of women are treated in those countries?
I mean, not necessarily. Obviously, with this case, with the person that perpetrated this crime, it's very specific and obviously it's very extreme. But I think that it's complete rubbish and actually quite ludicrous to pretend as if people who come from a certain type of a certain part of the world are more likely to commit this crime. Clearly, you've said, Patrick, that, the data hasn't come back yet. We haven't been able to verify that. But also, it's completely discriminatory to pretend as if these people are more likely to commit these crimes. I'm more unsafe walking the streets of London, equally, maybe because there's a bunch of people who are coming on boats who are predators. Equally, the same with the Met Police. We've seen with Sarah Everard case what happened, and criminals can come in all shapes and sizes, whether they're white, black, asylum seekers, or with British passports. So it's completely ridiculous to pretend as if something that's actually our international obligation, not an open border, and we're not the only country that's obliged to take in asylum seekers, that all of a sudden just makes us more susceptible to crime. Crime comes in all shapes and sizes.
All right, Emma, do you want to come back to that?
Well, I just think it is against common sense to suggest that culture doesn't have an impact on the way that people behave or the way that they see things. We know that, the Taliban have just announced that they're going to be stoning women to death in public. We know that that there are. And I think actually that many Western feminists find it very difficult to call these sorts of things out because they're frightened of being called.
Emma, I'm sorry, but that's.
Oh, sorry, John. I'll come to you in a second.
Well, I sat patiently and waited while you made your point. My point is simply that, this is a risk to everybody, actually, not just women. And of course, sex offences might pose a specific risk to women. But the reality is, if you don't have any control over your borders, you've got no idea who's coming into your country. That doesn't create a safer environment for anyone.
OK, go on, Joanna. Sorry, you were itching to get involved there.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's absolutely ridiculous because just as many sexual predators or people who perpetrate violence against women could have been coming from places that we actually have these resettlement schemes, like Ukraine, like Hong Kong. But the difference
Can I just stop you there? But just purely because it was women and children from Ukraine, so it is highly unlikely.
Well, it might be women and children from Ukraine predominantly, but there's also men that are coming. It's not just women and children. But the point is, as a country, we can decide who we give these resettlement schemes to. And obviously, we're very specific because there's this kind of thing against, Islamists, which rightfully so, if it is extreme. And for Emma, for you to cite things like the Taliban and equate that with genuine asylum seekers, which some of these people who are coming on these boats are actual genuine asylum seekers. And if there's anybody to blame, then it's the actual Home Office. If they were actually processing people and going through the right procedures, then we wouldn't have these problems and you wouldn't have people who would be able to game the system. But like I said, and going back to the main point, the point is that criminals and people who perpetrate violence against women come in every single colour. And I'm just as unsafe, potentially, walking down the street and having somebody and being another Sarah Everard and having the Met Police, who I'm equally as terrified, as an asylum seeker. So to pretend as if it's a problem because these people are coming from a certain type of the world and then also using this kind of cheap shot about feminism.
Okay.
I think it's
Emma, with respect, is that perhaps the kind of maybe blind spot that you were talking about? I'm just having a look at some of the stats here. So between 2018 and 2023, according to Migration Watch UK, just under 16,000 people came from Afghanistan on small boats. 95% of them were male as well. If the societal norms in those countries or that country is that women are treated less than second-class citizens, is it not reasonable to expect that they may have those views when they come here?
I'm going to be charitable and assume that your other guest isn't willfully misrepresenting my views. But it's not to say that every single person who comes here as an asylum seeker is going to be a sex offender or anything like that. Would be an absurd thing to suggest. But what you are suggesting is that if you don't know who's coming in, then you don't know who might be gaming the system. You're letting people into your country in a way that is obviously going to contribute to insecurity, like I say, because you don't know who they are. And also what you do know is that they are coming from cultures where we know that women are treated badly. Okay. So there are two factors here, but your guest is misrepresenting me if she's suggesting that I'm suggesting that all people are like, which is not what I have said.
Final word, Joanna. Joanna, do you accept that potentially other parts of the world, like, dare I say, the Middle East and North Africa, maybe do have slightly more of a problem with misogyny than we have over here?
Yeah, of course. You could think that based on who you ask, from different parts of the world. And our perception of something is completely different. But that's also, and Emma, the reason why you think that I'm misrepresenting your views is because you're citing things like the Taliban. You're citing things that are the most extreme. So how can I not, view it as the way that you're actually presenting it? Of course, talking about misogyny in terms of how women are treated is completely different from this case, which is the most extreme. And when you cite things like the Taliban, which is the most extreme, then obviously it creates something where people are more fearful and you're actually scaremongering. And equally, we don't know the people who are coming from Ukraine. We don't know the people who are coming from Hong Kong either. So it's the same, but the difference is there is an actual open door policy, and with
respect, we do absolutely know the people. It's not true. I do have to point that out. We do absolutely know who the people are coming from Hong Kong. That's just a fact because they arrived here, most of them on planes with their passports, and told us.
Yeah, okay, they came here on planes with a passport, but also they've also got history potentially, and anybody can come with a clean record, and then the next day create a crime, commit a crime. So,
all right, yeah, fair enough. All right, look, both of you, thank you very, very much. Good stuff. That good head-to-head. Look, who do you agree with? Do our open borders pose a threat to women in Britain?